This is Kyle Madson with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Washington Redskins claimed former 49ers linebacker Reuben Foster off waivers. San Francisco waived Foster following his arrest for domestic violence Saturday at the team hotel in Tampa. Foster's been placed on the commissioner exempt list, so he won't be making his debut for the Redskins anytime soon. He can't practice or play, but he can be around the facility in a limited capacity, and he will be paid by the team. Jaguars running back Leonard Fournette lost his appeal of his one-game suspension, so he won't be available for the Jags this week against the Colts. He can return next week on Thursday night against the Titans. And the college football playoff rankings are out. It's Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame in the top three. Georgia sits at number 4 following Michigan's loss to Ohio State. Ohio State jumped up to number 6 after that win. Oklahoma sits at number 5. It's 7:01. Peak Financial wants to talk retirement. Dial pound 250 and say the word money. Those are your top stories. Now time for the second hour of the drive on Sports 1140 KHGK.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead.
I'm not letting you go to work today.
Wait, what?
Everybody, listen up.
Welcome to The Drive.
Morning, morning, morning.
You're gonna talk.
Get on the phone at 339-1140.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Jump in on our text line at 441140.
Everyone is talking about it. You must know that.
The Drive starts now.
All right, a lot to get to in these next 2 hours. We appreciate you joining us on The Drive. 4 down territory at 7:15. We'll talk about Joe Flacco in Baltimore. Also, what's the best football movie of all time? Coach Jerry Reynolds. We haven't had him on in a while. Going to be nice to check in with him since I think the first time since before preseason. He's going to show up at 7:35. Scott Bair, as he does every Wednesday, talking Raiders at 8:05. Kyle's Cold Hard Facts, brought to you by Coors Light, is on at 8:35. All right, here we go. A lot of stuff to get into in this segment. Kyle, we'll start with this. Yesterday, JaVale McGee. I don't have any issues with JaVale McGee. He's a character. I like him. I like characters. He's never done anything bad other than look goofy and be on Shaqtin'. And he's got a ring. 2 rings. Seeing if you were listening. Last night in Denver, the Nuggets just destroyed the Lakers. We talked about that. But in a tweet by the NBA's official Twitter account, McGee was seen exiting in the tunnel. Stopped for a moment because a mother asked for his autograph, not for herself, but for her baby. It was a cute little infant, and despite the fact that the infant was dressed in Laker gear, I'll let that pass because it's a baby. It's a cute little baby dressed in Laker gear, a little Lakers bow. And McGee signed the shirt of the baby. That's different. That's different. I'm okay with that. Sign the baby. And then you got to frame the little baby onesie, I think. And when I first read the headline, I was like, oh, my God, did he actually sign the baby?
There's no way that's healthy for the baby.
Like across the forehead?
And if he had signed the baby, do you then frame the baby?
Ooh. Just put the baby
like,
in a
I know
frame.
they have like little containers that you can put like display footballs in. If you cut like a face hole for the baby and
Sure.
like plop it in the thing,
There you go.
that way you could still give it nourishment.
You have a baby. It's the baby. It's like in a little cot, whatever, little baby carrier, but it's like spinning slowly, like one of those baseballs. I'd be all for that, depending on who signed my baby. LeBron James was asked how long he wants to keep playing in the NBA.
How long is it?
Nope. He made an appearance on the Tim Ferriss show. No shade being thrown. Who is Tim Ferriss? And how do you get LeBron James? I apologize if I should know this.
Tim Ferriss.
He's the author of 5 bestsellers. He's an investor, host of the Tim Ferriss Show. He has 1.56 million followers. Who is Tim Ferriss? I feel bad not knowing this.
I'm going to try and get him on the show.
Jeez, you should. I mean, I've never heard of Tim Ferriss in my life. And he's getting LeBron James on his show. He has a 1.5, and it's not one of those where he's also following 1.5 million people. He's following 20,000 people. He's got almost 1.6 million Twitter followers.
Following less than 2,000 people.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at his amount of tweets. You're 100% correct. He's following 1,500 people. So this guy's a big deal for some reason. Host of the Tim Ferriss Show podcast with 300 million plus downloads. That's some serious numbers. All right. Note to self. Find out who Tim Ferriss is. Learn about him. Good for him. Here's what LeBron said. I would love to see the floor with my son. My son's in the 8th grade right now. If he continues on the path he's on, he could possibly be in the NBA in 5 to 6 years. That would be an unbelievable moment for not only myself, but for my family. So we'll see. Obviously, taking care of the body is number one. We'll continue to do that. But more importantly, taking care of the mind. If your mind isn't fresh, then your body will fall by the wayside. So through the grace of the man above and through everything that myself and my trainer Mike and my support team do, that would be pretty doggone cool, easy, if I'm able to be on an NBA floor with my oldest son. So
That's how you know LeBron's getting super old.
2 things.
That'd be pretty doggone cool.
From the 209, Tim Ferriss invented the Ferris wheel. Okay.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
know
That
that.
makes way more sense.
Number one.
That's a cold, hard fact.
You and I talked about this a year ago. I think we actually broke the story, basically, because we said, he's going to play until he plays with one of his kids.
Yes.
All right, his oldest kid. We had a whole segment on it.
I'm actually pretty upset LeBron did not credit us.
Nor did Tim Ferriss.
Pretty unreal. Hey, Tim Ferriss and I up on the wrong foot.
Not a good start, Tim. Number 2, I am a fan of LeBron James. This is always when I'm about to crap on somebody.
Tim Unferriss.
I am a fan of LeBron James. Damn it, Kyle. And one of my favorite things about him is how he is a family man, how he is so involved with his kids, how he truly cares about his family, and has never really done anything wrong other than, stuff.
He's never done anything wrong off court.
Exactly. But, dude, what kind of ridiculous pressure is that for your kid? Like, everyone's going to focus on, LeBron says he wants to play until Bronny makes it to the NBA, so he's in 8th grade, so that means he's 4. And then they're going to start doing, if he plays this long and averages this with this amount of, no. Can we just focus on, and as a parent, and again, I'm not throwing shade at LeBron for being a dad or how he is. I think he's awesome. But I wonder if he thinks about that. Like, can you imagine? I want to play until my kid is playing with me. So the assumption now in 8th grade, and it's probably a safe assumption, is that your son, who is already named LeBron James Jr.,
but doesn't wear number 23 because he doesn't want people to know.
Right, and goes by Bronny. Because, Bronny James, are you related?
LeBron James Jr. Hey, whose kid is that?
Right, who is that?
Where's his dad?
Is that Mike James's kid? I don't know. Is it LeBron? But can you imagine you're in 8th grade? You already are under insane. You're never going to live up to your dad.
Can I offer a counterpoint?
Of course, because I'm not deciding on this. I'm not making a hot take.
Here's what I think happened.
I'm wondering out loud.
Here's how I imagine this happened, because LeBron is hyper aware of everything he says and everything he does.
Sure.
Everything he tweets, there's some kind of meaning to it. Everything he says, there's some kind of meaning to it. My guess is he has had this conversation with Bronny.
Oh, I guarantee you he has.
And they've said, hey, it would be awesome if we could play in the NBA together. And he then said, you're going to have to work your tail off.
Sure.
To make that happen. Like, you're not going to be able to skate by on your name because you're never going to play in the NBA if you're not good. And my guess is this is something that he and Bronny both have talked about.
I'm sure I'm 1 billion% sure
so
you're
when
correct.
he comes out and says this, like, that's his goal for sure. But if LeBron James Jr. woke up today and went, gosh, I want to play baseball. Like, he's a really good baseball player, and I want to play baseball, and said, I don't think LeBron James is going to be disappointed in any way. I think that's just his, hey, this is what I've talked about with my kid, and if he makes it to the NBA, I want to be able to play on his team.
But don't you think that's a lot of added pressure?
Maybe a little bit, but I don't think it's LeBron adding pressure as a dad.
I'm reminded of another situation.
Your parents went away on a week's vacation?
Yes.
I'm sorry, keep going.
Jeffrey Jordan got into Illinois, which once upon a time was a basketball powerhouse. It wasn't like getting into, Fred State. It was Illinois.
It's called Frostville State, but keep going.
Jeffrey Jordan played for 2 years at Illinois, I believe, and then he ended up transferring to Central Florida. Played Division I basketball for 4 years. But anytime anyone ever brings up Jeffrey Jordan in a conversation, it's, oh, dude, what a disappointment. You're Michael Jordan's son. Right. If Bronny James doesn't make the NBA, that's now a disappointment, whereas for 99% of the world, playing Division I basketball is an amazing feat.
And at the rate he's going, he may not even have to play in college. But
sure. But when
I think so.
When you're LeBron James and you say that?
But that was going to happen no matter what.
Of course it was.
That was going to happen if LeBron James Jr. was into astrophysics right now and didn't play basketball. It was going to go, wow, you're a published astrophysicist who discovered how to survive on Mars. Well, it stinks you didn't play in the NBA. You're a LeBron James kid.
What if all he wants to do is be a teacher?
Then that's
his thing. And again,
then no matter what, whether LeBron says this is his goal or not, that was always going to be the pressure on LeBron James Jr.
Yes, and I feel like I'm sliding into criticizing LeBron as a dad, and that's the opposite of what I want to do. He obviously he knows his son better than anyone. He knows what he's doing. And by the way, Bronny James is probably going to make the NBA.
He's a good player.
Very good player for his age. I guess my point is I have a lot of respect, not empathy because they're all very rich and very happy, but a lot of respect. If Bronny James does make the NBA years from now, it's all hearts and flowers, but I'm always going to have in the back of my head the immense amount of pressure he was under to get to that point.
Okay, so let's go away from that. Let's just assume he does go to the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
The summer that he is draft eligible is going to be fascinating.
God. Oh, it really is.
And I'm very much looking forward to it.
We'll take a break. No, I'm not forgetting the fact that the kid is rich. He'll never have to work a day in his life, and he's got access to trainers and everything that no other kid has. I'm not feeling sorry for him. I'm just acknowledging the pressure. So calm down on those texts, too. When we get back, we'll switch to football. 4-down territory. Hugh Jackson, Joe Flacco. What the hell is going on with Carolina and their kicking situation? And I need the greatest football movie of all time. We're back in a couple. Sports 1140 KHTK. 4-down territory brought to you by Fire Wings. 21 different flavors to choose from. Firewings.com, just wing it. Jerry Reynolds is going to come on around 7:35, 7:40. Before that, when we get done with 4-down territory, Kyle, I told you, I don't know if you remember or not, told you about 3 weeks ago. I said, I have an in with the Oakland A's stadium situation. They added a part of a team to their already awesome team working on this. And I said, I've never had more confidence.
I remember this.
In the A's getting a stadium than I do now, because I now know some of the people and have worked with some of the people that are involved, and I see the people that they are going out and getting for this.
Mm-hmm.
These are money makers, money movers, and one in particular has what I like to call the Midas touch when it comes to this stuff.
Would you say they don't dance, they make money moves?
That's right.
I'm sorry.
So we have breaking news that we will hit you with when we get back at 7:30 on the A's stadium situation that you can finally see for yourself. There's movement happening, and you guys are going to get a stadium.
Speaking of the A's getting a stadium.
How about that?
Is Joe Flacco done in Baltimore?
Great tie-in. Yeah, he's done. Barring injury, of course. Lamar Jackson did hurt this weekend. Hopefully he doesn't. I think Joe Flacco would obviously be in there. But I think they've moved on from Joe Flacco. My question back to you is, can Joe Flacco help a team in the offseason? For example, the most glaring example is Jacksonville. Could Jacksonville make a run at Joe Flacco? And would he greatly or decently enough turn their prospects around offensively?
No, because Jacksonville's defense is not as good as it was.
No. They'd have to there's obviously things they have to do.
If you plug in this year, and here's where, if you plug in this year's Joe Flacco to last year's Jaguars, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not going to come in if if the Bills hadn't just drafted a quarterback, Joe Flacco would be the best quarterback on the Bills.
I guess what I'm asking is Joe Flacco is done in Baltimore most likely, but is Joe Flacco done as a starting quarterback in the NFL that's relevant?
I think so.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right. Second down.
Second down.
I can't see a team that's starting Joe Flacco winning a Super Bowl.
Okay.
I guess. Should people have an issue with Hugh Jackson going to Cincinnati?
No. No, they shouldn't, and here's why. Hugh Jackson got fired. Hugh Jackson can go wherever he wants. I always love it when a player gets released, a coach in this case gets released, and then he goes to a rival, and they're like, that's breaking the code. You know, Baker Mayfield took some shots at him for going to a division rival. Well, sorry. Don't release him. Don't fire him. Wait till the end of the year. I agree with the decision to get rid of Hugh Jackson, and I think they should have done it a long time ago. But if he's fired,
Yeah, he can go wherever the hell he wants.
now counterpoint, because you and I agree on this. So let me switch around now that my feelings are known. At the same time, Hugh Jackson made a lot of money off the Cleveland Browns and is still making money off the Cleveland Browns. That contract is guaranteed. So is there something where he should have respect for that money and what he's getting paid and say, hey, listen, I'm still getting money off of these guys. Maybe I'll wait a few months to go to a division rival.
KHTK fires you.
Mhm.
Radio station A down the street calls
Yes,
and says, hey,
I'm there.
we've got a spot open.
I am there the next day. But, Kyle, the difference is, and it's a good analogy, but here's the difference. If KHTK was paying me $4 million a year, and I was going, if I get fired from KHTK,
You mean they're not?
If I get fired from KHTK tomorrow, I get a few weeks severance, and I'm thankful for that. I'm happy for that.
Sure.
But a lot of people don't understand. For example, in radio, I can sign a 10-year deal tomorrow. If I get fired the next day, I'm still only getting a few weeks of severance. It's not a guaranteed deal. So I do think there's a little bit of a difference because I would not still be on the payroll. And by the way, I would have to wait.
Okay.
I would have to wait until my severance package was up to go to that radio station.
We've also got a guy who's likely playing the long game, knowing that his prospects as an NFL coach are probably slim to none.
Sure.
He's now on a team who has given up. Did they give up 500 yards this week?
Probably.
Who's given up 500 yards a bunch of weeks in a row, and they've lost several games in a row, and is unsure of their coaching situation. Like, we thought Marvin Lewis was gone, and then they kind of re-signed him because they didn't have anything better to do. He has a history with Cincinnati and their ownership, and I wouldn't put it past Hugh to go into Cincinnati and just kind of, drop those little hints here and there, like, man, as another tough loss today. Guys didn't look like they were trying out there.
Sure.
Whatever you say to undermine a coach, and then try and finagle his way into another head coaching position. I have no problem. I got nothing for it.
Third down.
Third down.
On Sunday, Graham Gano broke a streak of 41 consecutive field goals made at home. And now the Panthers are working out kickers. That makes sense?
No, I don't get it at all. I was reading the story. They worked out Caleb Sturgis, Chandler Catanzaro, Sam Ficken, and Matt McCrane. I've brought in 4 kickers to work out. They just signed Gano, I think, last year to a contract extension. And as you just said, he made 41 straight at home. He missed a 52-yarder. Remember Graham Gano earlier this year winning a game for them with a 63-yard field goal against the Giants in Week 5?
I do.
What the hell are you doing? I'm not saying the guy's perfect, but what are you doing?
Kickers are very hard to come by.
Yeah.
And if you find one who's only just a little bit inconsistent sometimes, you got to keep him. Like, that's just the nature of...
He's had a couple bad weeks. Don't get me
kickers in the
wrong.
NFL.
He had a bad week the week before, but jeez. Especially, as you said, with the state of kicking in today's NFL, you hold on to Graham Gano with both hands.
I'm excited to see what the Vikings do with their kicking situation because Mike Zimmer is not happy with Blair Walsh.
Yeah.
And basically said during Sunday night's game that they're not going to kick anymore. They're just going to go for it every time. And I hope that's how they pursue the rest of the season.
I think that's a lot of where we might be going to. Fourth down.
Fourth down.
I think eventually the
Fourth
math is
down.
going to work out to where it's like, hey, it's better to just go for 2.
Sure.
Fourth down. What is the best football movie of all time?
This could be a full segment, and
Yeah,
we got to go.
we gotta go right now.
I will say this. I don't think the definitive football movie has been made yet. I think there's been some very good movies. But I think a lot of those movies, too, that we talk about, movies like there's the movie about the guy who shouldn't be on the football team, Rudy.
The Replacements.
Radio. Right. That overcomes odds.
Right.
I don't know that there's been a definitive football movie, maybe North Dallas 40, that gets into the modern day NFL and everything that goes with it. I think a lot of movies had pieces of that. There's a movie that a lot of people, it doesn't get put up there, but The Program with James Caan.
Yeah, really good movie.
Visited some of that, but overall probably isn't considered a great movie, but visited a little bit of that. Go ahead.
I think Friday Night Lights is excellent for getting into the Texas high school football.
Absolutely.
Both the movie and the show. For me, my favorite movie of all time is Remember the Titans.
Of any movie?
Yeah, that's just I have a really hard time picking a favorite, so that's just my go-to answer.
I guess, and we got a break here. I feel like there are definitive baseball movies. Bull Durham, not for the love of the game. The
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. The one about Lou Gehrig. I can't remember right now. And basketball. You have Hoosiers. You have a couple of definitive basketball. Yes. For me, when I think of football movies, I think of Waterboy. I think of Wildcats with Goldie Hawn. I think, of course, of Rudy and all that. Is Jerry Maguire a football movie?
No.
Okay, because I think of Jerry Maguire. I still think like the definitive football movie, and everyone wants to say Every Given Sunday. It was long at times. I still think it's out there. I still think it has yet to be made. But that's a big argument people are going to get angry about when we come back. Coach,
Radio's really good.
Radio is an excellent. They're excellent movies. I just don't know if they're the football movie. Jerry Reynolds joins us next. Before that, we're going to give you this breaking news. The Oakland A's making big money moves when it comes to their stadium right here on Sports 1140 KHK.
There it is. This is Kyle Madson with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Washington Redskins claimed former 49ers linebacker Reuben Foster off waivers yesterday. Foster was released by the 49ers following his arrest for domestic violence Saturday at the team hotel in Tampa. But it was the third time this year Foster had been arrested, but we may not see him in uniform at least this week and probably not anytime soon. The NFL is investigating his arrest and has placed him on the commissioner exempt list while they do so. That means he can't practice or play for Washington, but he can be around the facility in a limited capacity, and he will get paid. So he's not technically suspended yet. Jaguars running back Leonard Fournette lost his appeal of his one-game suspension for fighting in his team's loss last week in Buffalo. The Jags return home this week to take on the Colts. Fournette can return next week on Thursday night against the Titans. And the college football playoff rankings are out. It's Alabama, Clemson, and Notre Dame still sitting in the top three. Number 4 is Georgia after Michigan fell out of that spot for losing to Ohio State. Ohio State moved up to number 6 for beating Michigan. Oklahoma is at number 5. So a fun week of college football coming up on Saturday at 7:33. Peak Financial wants to talk retirement. Dial pound 250 and say the word money. Those are your top stories.
Money.
Now back to the drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
It's The Drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Jerry Reynolds coming up at 7:40. Kyle, I've got a lot. Go ahead.
To the Kyle Madson personal text line.
Yeah.
The show Playmakers
Playmakers.
was our buddy Brian sent that in.
What year did that movie come out?
It was a TV show.
Yeah, that's right. We're not asking about TV shows.
No, understood. But you said that it hadn't been made yet.
I know, I'm joking.
The movie.
I'm joking.
So if you're going to be a jerk about it, no, you're being a jerk.
Wow.
I'm trying to present a different side of this. I'm trying to present a different side of this argument, and you want to just poo.
Trying not
just
to defer.
Poo all over.
I'm trying not to defer to you too much. It's my Achilles heel, according to the internet. I have a lot of info here about your Oakland A's. No, don't turn your mic off. Come on, I don't even get you Friday. Chris Verlade will be in here Friday. I'm not saying I don't want to defer to you. I'm saying the internet said it. One guy. You want to hear about the A's? With that, can we make up with that? I have really good news on the A's, Kyle. Fine, I'm going to tell you anyways. The Oakland A's intend to build a next-generation urban ballpark at Howard Terminal. The A's also plan to pursue a second project to redevelop the Coliseum site. The two-project approach will create significant economic and community benefits for West and East Oakland. The A's ballpark, here's some info on it, plans to call for a total capacity of around 34,000 people, including fixed seats and general admission experience areas, to be arranged in a close configuration possible, as close as possible to home plate. Coming down to meet the waterfront, that's where the bowl will be. There's a lot of information, and the A's just released this, so I invite you to go check it out. I have in front of me too some of their graphics. There's a lot of info here, but it's their guiding principles that I love more than anything. Kyle, these guiding principles. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Number 1. Remember, I told you about the connections. I told you about my guy. The number 1 guiding principle behind this stadium push: bigger than baseball. That sound familiar? Bigger than baseball. Kings fans are all nodding their heads. Number 2, honor East Oakland. Number 3, home field advantage. Number 4, 100% privately financed. Number 5, of course, rooted in Oakland.
Home field advantage. I like that because that means the visitors' locker room is going to have a moat. The alligators in it.
They're actually going to tear down the entire Coliseum except for the visitors' locker room and showers and clubhouse, and they have to go across the street to deal with that.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, A's fans, nothing is a guarantee, and I don't want to jinx anything, but the A's are dead serious about this. They have the right people behind this. They're making calls and bringing people on that you only bring on when you're ready to go for it, and you've got a lot of the hard part behind you.
And this is the first time we've seen this, too. We've seen them say, yeah, we're staying in Oakland before, but it was more like, yeah, sure. Whatever shuts you up. But this is actual action, which is kind of cool, and it's at least it says in their series of tweets here that it's going to be privately financed.
Privately financed. There are pictures, mock-ups of the stadium as well. They have the right people. They've still got to do an environmental report. They still have to cut the deal with the city. They're also going to redevelop the Oakland Coliseum site, which will be vacant because the Warriors are moving to the Chase Center in San Francisco here in a couple years. This is by far the biggest and most relevant step that has been made. And it's not just, hey, we put some pictures out. They have been working behind the scenes for a while now. They have done what they can to hint, to talk up, and now it starts in earnest the rest of the process. So if you're an A's fan, number 1, of course, you're not going to get too excited because you've been burned before. And I'm not even going to try to tell you to do that. I'm just saying they have the right people. They have the right idea. It's the right situation. I would feel very, very good today and very energized if I was an Oakland Athletics fan. And I'm happy for them. I'm really, truly happy for them. That they deserve it. They shouldn't have to be the little brother in the Bay Area because in many cases, their stadium stinks. They should be able to compete with and overtake the Giants if need be based on play on the field. This is great news for the A's and great news for A's fans. What's great news for us is that we have a citywide, dare I say, national treasure on the phone line. It's no secret. One of my favorite people in the world, also one of your favorite people in the world, and a vital member for many, many years of the Sacramento Kings franchise, the one, the only Coach Jerry Reynolds. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, Dave. I just think, honestly, you're going to have to start setting your standards a little higher if you got me up that high.
Never.
You've dropped them too low.
We haven't had, and I apologize, we haven't, I don't think, spoken since the week the season began. And my goodness, do we have a lot to catch up on. I will say that earlier this week, I got a surprise visit from your friend, and mine now, Lance Woods, who dropped in for about a half an hour. Jerry, can I just say, and you know I love Coz, and he's like an older brother to me, but my goodness, when you and Lance are on that show together, when you guys are doing the pre or post game together, I don't know, famous duos of all time, be it Abbott and Costello, Lucy and whoever her husband, Desi, you guys are absolute magic.
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, Lance, he does bring a level of energy that I don't normally have, or very few have. He's a really an interesting young man.
You don't screw around, though. You match that energy. You could have just kind of faded back and let Lance do his thing because he is a ball of energy. You, from the get-go, Coach, got right back up in Lance's face. You met him with all that energy and just a massive amount of fans, both there and watching TV at home, like myself with my family. We were up and cheering and laughing. I think you guys should move in together and have your own reality show.
Well, actually, I think my wife might even agree with that. She kind of had the impression. She said, "Boy, you made yourself even more of an idiot than usual." I said, "Well, I'm at the age where I don't really care."
Exactly. Jerry Reynolds is joining us. You don't care. You're already established. You're a Hall of Famer, Jerry. I thought this team, when I was asked, it's our job to do predictions, and I said, I think this team is probably going to start out. I looked at the schedule. I said, I don't go by Vegas odds a lot, but it is a decent guideline. I said they're probably going to be favored by about 3 games in their first 20. So I think, unfortunately, this team's going to start out somewhere between 3-17, 6-14. I think by the time we get to December, you're going to have people calling for Coach and Vlade's heads. I don't think the first half of this season is going to go too well. Man, I've never been more happy to look that stupid and sound that wrong. But I'm curious. I'm a big fat guy on radio. You are a guy who has played and coached basketball and been around this franchise your entire life almost. How did you think they were going to start this year?
Well, not nearly as well as they have. I'll be honest with you. I was fairly optimistic early when I first saw them work out, and a couple of early preseason games. I saw some things. I thought, well, I think this team has a chance to score the ball and be fun to watch, that sort of thing. And then that preseason game against Utah, I left at the first quarter, and I was so depressed. And I got home, and I remember telling my wife, I said, I kind of had some hopes that they could even get to like 35 wins. And I said, I'm not sure this team can win 20 games.
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, really, that's just. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm still doing trying to watch these guys in full form. It's just tough. But then, fortunately, and thank goodness, I was 1,000% wrong at that point, and they come out and they've been such a fun bunch to watch. I mean, certainly. The record's the record. They're 500, a tough stretch of schedule, and just certainly been better than anyone in the, in national media or local media for that matter, or even fans, I think, expected. So it's just been a breath of fresh air. I mean, we needed it, and we see you can see the reason to be optimistic now. I mean, obviously, we don't know how it's all going to play out, but you can be optimistic about this team and not just be silly.
Coach Jerry Reynolds with us, and I say Coach Jerry Reynolds because he's coached most of his life and understands what it's like to be on the sidelines in an NBA situation. Coach, I've made no qualms about it. I've had some issues with Dave Yeager and his rotations and different things that he's done since he's been here in Sacramento, but I have an absolute love affair with he and his coaching staff, Ellison Turner, Brian Gates, Jason March, etc. And that started last year. I've always had high hopes for them, and I feel like this year he's coaching his tushy off. I'm curious for you if you can tie that together. First off, how would you grade the coaching staff? And then secondly, how much of an effect do you think that's had on this start?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Dave Yeager. I'll tell you right now, I think he's the very best coach in Sacramento Kings history other than Rick Adelman, and I still say that Rick Adelman, there ought to be a jersey hung from the rafters and with his name on it, because he's been more successful than any player or anybody in this franchise. 8 years, 8 playoffs. I mean, come on.
Yep.
But anyway, other than Rick and his staff, it's Dave. Dave is the best, and his staff. I think his staff is terrific too. I'm a huge fan. I don't always agree with Dave, but then again, I'm wrong a lot. Dave is excellent at his job, and I think his style of play fits the personnel, and that's what coaches have to do. Find a way to get your best players on the floor and find a style that fits them as much as possible. And I think he's extremely good at that. I always have. I thought last year played a style that a lot of people didn't like, but with the personnel he had, it probably was the best way to play most of the time. And so, yeah, just nothing but kudos to Dave Yeager. He is part of the solution. He is no part of the problem.
Coach Jerry Reynolds with us. And, Coach, I never want to put you in a bad spot, but I also love the fact that I can always run anything by you and get a fair answer. When there was a pretty dramatic situation a couple weeks ago with that Yahoo report and Coach Yeager and all that stuff, and it hurt a lot of fans and worried a lot of fans because we've been through drama before, and it finally seems like everything's calmed down. And I think the media, but more importantly, Coach Yeager and the franchise itself have done a great job at calming that down, and we've moved past it. But I am curious. You've been on both sides. You've been on the general manager side in basketball, and you've also been on the coaching side. Are disagreements in philosophy, even to the point of arguments, is that a fairly normal thing in the NBA? Does that happen more than we think, or can that be a real issue?
Well, it happens a lot. That's just kind of normal.
Sure.
I think in general, having experience both ways, I think as a coach, you're looking at today and what can I do to win today, and a general manager is looking at from the franchise from a standpoint of what can I do to make sure this thing is good for the future. So you always have a little different look that way, and then plus a GM by nature, since he put the roster together, always sees the roster as better than maybe the coach does. That's just that is absolutely 100% certainty. But so you always go on that understanding, and so there's always little disagreements there. But I don't think, and that's not unusual. I think most people agree to disagree a little bit, just like a good marriage.
Sure.
And so certainly I think. Here, from what I do know, is that Vlade Divac and Dave Yeager have a very solid relationship. They don't agree on everything, and they shouldn't.
Yeah.
That you don't want that. And I was really, really pleased to see Vlade come right out with a statement right away, and he's the leader of the franchise. Now, I don't know for sure who was involved in the rumors and all that sort of thing, and whoever was is really disrespectful and shouldn't be allowed. I know from my background both ways, and then working for a guy like Jeff Petrie, we just didn't have leaks. We didn't always agree, but you didn't have leaks. It didn't go public, that's for sure.
Do you often think that, I don't want to say easier, Coach, but one of the things you didn't have to deal with as a coach or GM was really social media? And do you think that in a lot of ways has changed the way leaks and how things internally run because everybody now all of a sudden has a voice?
Oh, for sure, Dave. And agents, you can't, honestly, you can't trust very many of them.
Yep.
They've got their own agenda.
Yep.
They're not interested in what's best for your franchise, or they're always interested in what's best for their particular client. So you have that part that's always been there, but with social media it gets out a lot more. So absolutely, it's much more difficult today. I don't know how anybody can hardly deal with it. It's a shame. But you have it.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, and it's not like you coached back in the 40s here, but as recently as 15, 20 years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, but as a coach or as a GM, you were able to, and many others like you were able to forge relationships with media members and, quite frankly, tell them things and have off-record conversations that revealed probably a lot of things that you wouldn't want to go public, and you had that trust factor to know that they wouldn't go public. I don't want to ask you if that's completely gone, but in your opinion, is that almost gone?
It seems to be.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think that was never really a concern with me. I think the media that I dealt with over the years, you could trust them.
Yeah.
And I tried to be truthful with them. It's the key word is tried. Sometimes you see truth differently.
Right.
I think that's human nature. But in today's thing, what's really used to be off the record, maybe off the record. I think what happens is maybe off the record with the person you've talked to, but sometimes the media becomes a source for other media, and I think that's very, not very reputable. But I do think that happens.
That's a very, very good point. You're absolutely right. The media becomes a source for other media, and I've seen that, and I know you've seen that too. As Jerry Reynolds joins us, Jerry. We've talked about the development all year long about De'Aaron Fox. Harry Giles filled up the stat line the other night in just 20 minutes, had a almost Draymond Green style a stat sheet where you had assists and blocks and steals along with points. I'm not going to ask you if he's turned the corner yet because I don't think he has, and I don't think you think that. But are you starting to see more and more the potential of this kid?
Oh yes, I mean there's no doubt that Harry can be a very good player, and you're right. I mean he's just started to establish himself as an NBA player of basketball. Yeah. I mean you see some good things, you see some areas where he's just not very good. I mean defensively, the next guy he stops might be the first one.
Right.
And his using his hands to play defense instead of moving his feet, things like that. But he's an athlete. He's a really nice young man and wants to be good. And I've said so many times. I remember talking to Grant earlier. I said, I just won't make any judgments on the guy till he's played 50 or 60 games because he just hasn't played any basketball anytime. From high school to college to now, he's just now starting to get to play due to injuries. And so considering everything, I think there's really reason to believe that Harry's going to be very good.
Jerry, it's an impossible question, but if I were to say to you that Marvin Bagley might have a better chance of being an all-star, let's say, but Harry Giles has a higher ceiling than Bagley, would you say that's accurate?
Couldn't say. Sure. I definitely think they are both real potential cornerstone kind of players.
Yep.
And that's really the only thing I'd say about it. I mean, with Marvin, he's got some special things. Is just how quick he is off his feet, the good hands, able to finish, and second, all those kind of things are nice. And then amazingly, his outside shot is way better than I thought it would be this early. And so at his age, you can see where, in a year or so, the normal progression could make him a real difficult cover. And, a guy that could be a 20-10 guy in a reasonable amount of time.
Last thing for you, just kind of on a personal note, Coach, we yesterday we kind of did our quarter season grades because we're about there. I'm curious, we're 20 games into the season, and you had yourself a major life change going into this year. And it's been, the whole Kings team's been thrown out of whack a little bit even more because Katie had her baby, and we love that, and she'll be coming back soon. But I know for you, this is the first time in a long time you've had this type of lifestyle this season. 20 games in, do you miss it? Are there things that you miss about being on the road? I know you're comfortable with your decision, but I'm just curious if you feel any differently now than you did maybe back in September going in.
Well, I don't miss being on the road at all. Sure. I am really looking forward to our beloved Katie coming back and doing the road games on the pre- and post-game show instead of me. I've been doing that, going to San Francisco to do that. And I don't even want to do that.
Right.
But I enjoy working with Coach on the pre- and post show, and we'll do some games with Grant later in the year, I guess, a few games. And so, but it's a different thing. I've enjoyed, enjoyed what I'm doing. It's different. I was telling Grant, I said, the thing is so different doing the pre and post. You're talking about what you think may happen in the pregame show, and then afterwards you're talking about what did happen, as opposed to doing the games like Grant and Doug do, or I used to do, is you're talking about what is happening, which is much more fun. It's a lot more fun, but, I just have had a blast being up, especially home games with the fans, behind us, and getting a chance to visit with them and talk, and because they, to me, that's who I work for, really, and so I'm always looking forward to that. So it's been an adjustment, but hey, I'm at the stage where anything different than adjustments, it's kind of good. I'm glad that I'm where I can adjust a little bit.
Hey, Jerry, if the Kings start losing when Katie comes back, are you willing to step in for her again and get them back on a winning track?
Great point.
The answer to that would be no. I don't, because I would not hold Katie responsible for anything, or I certainly haven't been responsible for any wins. So, I know enough about the game to know it. What goes on the court is what goes on the court.
Oh, you can see him pre-half and post during the games on NBC Sports California, and it is always great. The Kings are not the Kings without Coach Jerry Reynolds, and it's been too long. Coach, I appreciate you joining us this early, and hope to talk to you again very, very soon, and see you out at a game very soon.
Well, anytime, Dave. You know that. Enjoy talking to you guys.
Yes, sir. You take care. That's Coach Jerry Reynolds, and every time I talk to him, I get a grin from ear to ear, and I hope you do as well. Not only does he have immense basketball knowledge we can draw on, but he's the absolute best.
He's a real kick in the pants.
We'll take him. I love how he straight up said, nope, not stepping in with Katie. It's not happening. Kyle throwing shade at Katie, 339-1140. 1-800-920-1140. There's more shade for you. That's our word of the day. We'll take a break. Scott Bear will join us. Much like Matt Barrows yesterday, it turned out well. We're going to try to get a full segment out of Talking Raiders. If you have questions for Scott, you can text him in at 44-1140, and we'll try to get him asked as well. Ask him what his favorite NFL movie is, or football movie, I should say, is. As well. Kyle's Cold Hard Facts brought to you by Coors Light, coming up at 8:35. It's The Drive, back in a couple. Sports 1140 KHTK.